Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good whatever time it is, wherever you are, whoever you are. Welcome once again to Nerd Week Live, the show in which we, the folks at Nerd Caliber, talk about nerd news that has happened over the past week since our last show last Tuesday. I am Rodney Brown. I'm the editor-in-chief of Nerd Caliber, known as First Person Shooter on Facebook and Instagram, as a cosplay photographer, Burley underscore adopter on Twitter, and Burley adopter on a few other places, Mastodon and things like that. Before we get into tonight's show, I would first like to say welcome to the show, Fortnite Alfie Gamer. How long is this going to take? Probably 35 to 40 minutes. I don't have any other team members on here, so there's not going to be our usual funny back and forth. It's basically just going to be a dump of knowledge about the news that's happened in nerddom. But also, welcome to the show. And if anybody else wants to chime in while we're talking, we do like to respond in real time. Let us know what your opinions are on any of the topics that we're discussing, or my opinion on any of those topics. We're going to start, as we usually do, with our first promo. And that is, we would love to have you, if you have a Twitch account, to go visit us on twitch.tv/nerdcaliber. Consider looking us up and following us there. We're looking to build our following on Twitch to the extent that we have it on the other two platforms that we stream this live on. That is, of course, Facebook Live and YouTube. So twitch.tv/nerdcaliber. If you have an account, check it out. All right, we're going to jump right into the very first topic here. If you have not seen the show, you really should. This is Chloe Grace Moretz in the Amazon Prime series, The Peripheral. And the excellent news for those of us who are Peripheral fans is that Prime Video has just picked up the second season of The Peripheral, and that is wonderful news. The Peripheral is based on a novel of the same name by cyberpunk originator, really, William Gibson. It is very well acted, very well written. It is a very good adaptation where they shave off a little bit of the, excessive Gibsonisms of, his particular style of thinking about the future. But they certainly utilize an awful lot of his ideas, because he is one of the most creative thinkers about what a near and relatively near future might be. And this one is probably, I would say, the least cyberpunk of any of the works of his that I've read. But still, it could definitely be classified as a cyberpunk novel or cyberpunk series. Chloe Grace Moretz is wonderful. Everybody in it is fantastic. Luminous, welcome back to the show. And I really recommend, if you haven't seen it, all of the first season episodes are up on Prime. If you have Prime Video, if you have an Amazon Prime subscription, you have Prime Video, go watch it. It is absolutely worth it. Some of the most interesting characters I've seen portrayed, I've seen written and then portrayed in really interesting and creative ways. Nice, creative, deep thought sort of ideas about the world. I don't want to give anything away, but the idea that cyberpunk, a lot of it exists in sort of a virtual matrix world. In this, there's a real blur. There's an incredible blur, and it's blurred logically and very well. It's a great series. I would highly recommend it. But yeah, so it is going to get a second season. We don't know when they're going to start production of that. They've apparently been waiting on this for quite a while to get the announcement that Prime is going to pick it up. So I wouldn't count on this happening at any time earlier than late 2024, if that. But the fact that it is happening makes me very, very happy. If you are a science fiction fan, particularly if you are a relatively hard science fiction fan, as is the case with an awful lot of William Gibson stuff, he doesn't do anything that could ever be called science fantasy. Everything is pretty grounded in the idea of a technology that either does or certainly has been proposed to exist. Then you really like this. Is it The Expanse? Nothing is. It's close. It's very close. In particularly the intelligent writing and the excellent acting. Excuse me. Pardon me. I have to get one of those Steam Decks so I can just turn my mic off. But yeah, check it out. The Peripheral. The next topic is okay. That is, of course, Vin Diesel. That is from when I did the search, it said it was from Chronicles of Riddick. I'm pretty sure that's actually from Riddick, the third movie. But either way, the news is that there will be a fourth movie. This is an exclusive from Deadline. So this hasn't been confirmed, I don't think. Oh, no, it has, because Tui is quoted in here. So David Tui, who wrote and directed the last two, is coming back. Harry Brady, welcome to the show. Harry, the Flash official trailer was really good. I was blown away when I saw Michael Keaton back as Batman. Hold on to that thought, Harry. That is our last topic of the night, and we will definitely be getting into that. So Tui is back. He's writing the script like he did for the last two. He's directing like he did for the last two. Diesel will star, of course, and he will produce. So I liked the third one way more than I liked Chronicles of Riddick. I thought Chronicles of Riddick was idiotic. And this is called Riddick Furia. And he goes back to his home planet of the Furians, finds out apparently that most of them are gone, and gets involved in whatever's going on there. The concept of the Furians and the Necromongers was, in my mind, absolutely moronic. And I just, if it deals with the world building in the way they built the Necromongers, which, by the way, monger means seller. So a necromonger is someone who sells death. To who? It didn't look like they were selling anything to anybody. Anyway. Yeah, I thought Riddick, the third movie, was much better because it was kind of back to basics. It was Riddick is in a really crappy situation on a world he knows nothing about, and has to deal with that with people who don't particularly want him around. Well done. This one, they got to do something much more intelligent with the writing of this whole Necromonger Furians thing to get me really that interested in it. I said when the second one, Chronicles of Riddick, came out, and I saw it, this is a movie that was written by a 13-year-old anime fan, and then just the script was never changed. And I don't know that's the case. I have no idea when David Tui wrote this, or wrote Chronicles of Riddick, but no, that's what it seemed like to me. So, fingers crossed that everybody involved has become more mature as somebody working in the film industry, and we'll get something more like Riddick than Chronicles of Riddick, but who knows. And again, there's no timeline on this as of yet. They literally just put it out there, so we don't have a release date or even a release year. But I would guess this is something that they're probably going to try to get out of the gate pretty quickly. I don't know what else Diesel has lined up before then. Yeah, so it doesn't really say here exactly what else. He's got obviously Fast X, but that's pretty much in the can. Oh, that's right. I forget the Arc, the animated series. But again, that's just going to be voice work. So I would assume they could start production on this pretty quickly. This might be a 2025 release. For those of you who are deeply anticipating this, look forward to that date, or maybe even sooner. This one I am very much anticipating. This is an exclusive from Variety, so we don't know for sure how legit it is, but they are reporting that there is a Spider-Man Noir live action series being worked on at Amazon. It is here we are, being produced by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, and as developers of the series, along with the writer and executive producer Oren Uziel. Uziel is most recently known for writing The Lost City, the Sandra Bullock Channing Tatum comedy. Haven't seen it. Reviews seem to be above average. Other writing credits include 22 Jump Street, generally considered to be a very funny movie. The most recent Mortal Kombat movie, which was probably one of the best of all of them, to be sure, and the Cloverfield Paradox. So I have problems with the Cloverfield Paradox as the movie it was originally written as. And it was basically turned into a Cloverfield movie when J.J. Abrams' production company bought it and went, hey, we can make this into a Cloverfield movie. But if you've seen it and you look at it, the name of the station, the name of the research project, everything, none of it has anything to do with Cloverfield, except for certain scenes where people are talking to somebody back on Earth about the mission now called Cloverfield. So it is one of the clumsiest, let's stick some other intellectual property on this movie that's essentially already done, and we'll call it a Cloverfield movie just so that J.J. Abrams gets to release it and we'll maybe make more money on it. But it was an insanely derivative movie. Like, it was Life meets Alien meets... I was just, 2001: A Space Odyssey. There were just so many things that it wasn't inspired by. It, pulled parts straight out of. So I'm not a big fan of Uziel's work. Or at least I'd say I'm mixed to I'm a little trepidatious. But it's Spider-Man Noir, and it's Lord and Miller. So if Lord and Miller can run shotgun on this guy and make him produce really high quality stuff, and we get a Spider-Man series set in the 1930s in New York City with an older, grizzled Spider-Man Noir, sign me up. I will absolutely give it a try for sure. Again, just because of the other people involved. And who knows? Uziel could pull this out of a hat and write really good stuff. Or he could write, mediocre stuff and have a really good writing team around him that writes really good stuff. But very much looking forward to it. Again, it's a Variety exclusive, so there's no confirmation. But it's Variety. So they are fairly reliable with their inside source exclusives. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it could be a really good series. I would love it if they leaned pretty heavily into the noir with Uziel. It sounds like it could also be sort of a comedy noir. Harry, what do you think Spider-Man Noir would look like in a live action series on Amazon Prime? I think, let me go back to the image. This was from Into the Spider-Verse. I would guess that unless Lord and Miller are trying to connect this directly into the Spider-Verse, and they might be, I don't know that he's necessarily going to look quite like that. I think he may have a little bit more of like a Diesel Punk kind of look, sort of Diesel Punk meets noir, which is what he looks like often in the comics. Started in 2009, as part of the Marvel Noir universe. But I could be wrong. It could be almost just like a straight up black, completely black Spider-Man suit with an overcoat, fedora, and the sort of goggles type thing. And I wouldn't mind that. I'd kind of like it to be a little bit more on the sort of Diesel Punk look to it, while still having a very noir feel to the whole thing. But again, I'm not the production designer, and I don't know whether they will directly be inspired by any of the various versions that have been portrayed by different artists. So we'll have to see when that comes out. But it's a good question. That's what I would like to see. Let's put it that way. Whether or not that's what I think it's going to be, who knows? All right, moving on to our next topic. This is Emma Corrin. Emma Corrin played, this is them playing Princess Diana in The Crown. The news here is that Emma Corrin has been cast to be the villain in the upcoming Deadpool 3 movie, but the specific character has not been named. Emma Corrin is apparently super hot right now. We didn't talk about this, I think it was a week ago that it came out, or a little more than a week ago. But they were cast in Robert Eggers' upcoming remake of Nosferatu with Bill Skarsgård and Nicholas Hoult. Eggers just recently did The Northman. He did The Lighthouse. He makes really interesting and weird films. So that would be fantastic, Nosferatu, as a Robert Eggers film. But I'm not really sure, knowing, the Deadpool canon, who they could be playing. And I'm using they. Apparently they is Emma Corrin's pronoun. I think that they could be Death. If you know your Deadpool works, Deadpool, aside from Vanessa, the most important relationship in Deadpool's life is with Death. A very sort of Thanos comics thing too, but I think that would be a really interesting take, because we know Hugh Jackman is coming back. There was an interview that CNN did about a month ago with him where he dropped a little bit more information that this takes place before Logan. It is in continuity, but it takes place before Logan, so he's not dead. But Deadpool obviously has faced an awful lot of death in obviously within his own life. He's attempted to kill himself a number of times. Content warning for suicidal ideation. If you have any of those feelings, please do find one of the hotlines and get some help. But I think that would be sort of the really smart way to go, that would sort of tie in these two characters into a storyline that makes sense. But having said that, this is Ryan Reynolds and Sean Levy and whoever else is in the writing team of this thing. Who knows what craziness they could come up with. I would be willing to bet that now that this is an official part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or is going to be the sort of the last movie that transitions over into that, I don't think that they're going to be using any other X characters than the ones they've already used. So I would be really surprised if Emma Corrin comes in as, I don't know, Psylocke or Dazzler or whoever. So I don't think that's going to happen. But having them come in as somebody who is very much an important part of the Deadpool universe, Death, that makes sense to me. Completely and utterly my speculation on this. I have no idea. One of the other things in that interview with Hugh Jackman, it's on YouTube, you can find it. Jackman mentions that they will not start filming until 6 months after his current run on The Music Man on Broadway is over, because he's going to need 6 months to get back into super jacked Wolverine shape. So I don't know when the Music Man is going to wrap up its run, if it hasn't already. Yes, Harry Brady. So Harry, if you were actually like providing commentary within the chat for chat people about the topics we're talking about, awesome. assuming it runs for another couple of months, that they won't even start filming until sometime, in the latter part of this year. So I don't think Deadpool 3 is going to be anything coming up anytime soon. Actually, it's probably on one of the release slates. You know what? I should have checked on that. But anyway, I think this is a good get. Obviously, they are a very talented actor, and I think it's good news for Deadpool 3, which I would watch anyway. It doesn't matter really who they cast in it. It's got Ryan Reynolds coming back, and it's going to have Hugh Jackman coming back as Wolverine. What more do you need? All right, moving on to our next topic. This is John Constantine as portrayed in the Keanu Reeves version of Constantine, of the adaptation of the Hellblazer comic. The news is that in all of the reshuffling of DC into the DCU with James Gunn and Peter Safran and all of that, nobody has made any mention of the Constantine sequel until this past week. And the sequel is happening. It's still in production. There will still be a Constantine sequel. They don't say it here, but clearly that means it's probably going to be in Elseworlds, because it had absolutely no connection whatsoever to the DC universe of any kind in the original Constantine movie. So in this one, there's no reason for them to... Well, actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, since it did have no other connection to the DC extended universe, and it obviously has no connection to the DC animated universe because that was a completely different John Constantine, based on the short-lived TV series that was on NBC. So maybe they could actually tie this into the DCU. Maybe James Gunn is working, because we know he wants... it's Gods and Monsters is the name of this first chapter, of their, 10-year slate. So we know he's leaning into horror with Creature Commandos as the first project, the animated series, and Swamp Thing as the last. So yeah, maybe Constantine 2 is going to tie into the DC universe, the new one. Or it's probably going to be in Elseworlds. Which is what they have said that they're doing with, Todd Phillips' Joker Folie à Deux, with Matt Reeves' The Batman 2, or the Batman sequel, whatever it's going to be called. So, yeah, I'm thinking this is probably going to be an Elseworlds movie, but there's nothing in the previous movie that completely eliminates the possibility that this could be set in James Gunn's new DCU. It'd be interesting to see. I'm curious about that. I'm also looking forward to it. I liked Constantine. I mean, I understand that it's not really Constantine from the Hellblazer comics, but I liked Keanu Reeves' take on this kind of world-weary, demon-fighting character. And I like the overall tone of the movie. And I think a lot of the cast was fantastic. One of my favorite things Peter Stormare has ever done, and I really like Peter Stormare. His take on Lucifer, perfect, absolutely perfect. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I hope they speed it along fairly quickly, because I would really like to see it. But yeah, we're getting Constantine 2, which is one of the threads that didn't get pulled in all of the DCU announcements at the end of January. And we'll just touch a little bit on the couple of things that came out of the most recent Nintendo Direct. That is, of course, pardon me, I'm going to take a sip of coffee here. Samus from Metroid Prime Remastered, which Nintendo just completely pulled a fast one and dropped on everybody that the remaster for the Switch was available to purchase the day of the Direct. And a physical copies will be available to purchase in a few months. And the other really big thing, and they announced a couple other things. Pikmin 4 will be coming out in July. So if you're a big fan of the Pikmin franchise. But of course, the big one was The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. We got to see the very first trailer. It looks really cool. They've done I think, a really good job of increasing the graphical fidelity of the game without losing that. It's hard to describe what that a painterly 3D CG look. Um, and so they kept the look, but it's definitely a higher quality and greater graphical fidelity game if you watch the trailer. You also see that they are, in this trailer anyway, they're leaning pretty hard on the use of vehicles, land vehicles and air vehicles and so on. Um, in addition to the kite, there's a sort of a hovercraft, droney kind of thing. There's not really a tank. It's a cart with heavy duty wheels that moves on its own. Anyway, um, there's definitely a lot more sort of vehicle usage in this than in Breath of the Wild, um, and it looks really good. May 13th, I think. I left a. Oh, and then I closed it. Oh, that was stupid of me. Um, I believe it's May. Yeah. Oh, May 12th. May 12th of this year is when it comes out, assuming it comes out on that date. Um, Nintendo doesn't delay things a lot, but I'm liking the fact that other studios are doing that now. Putting out new announcement dates, even if it's only like 2 or 3 months, because certain things are not quite fully polished. Get them polished as much as you can. If there's anything that the release of Cyberpunk 2077 told us, like, don't do it. Even though that game was delayed a couple of times before then, delay it again. Get it out to the point where it's at least playable in the way you say it's playable, whether or not it's perfectly playable. Now, I don't know whether any of that's going to be the case. Obviously, Nintendo has all of the technology and stuff, the gameplays and everything down for the Legend of Zelda series perfectly. There's not a whole lot that they need to tweak about that. But so I'm assuming they are going to hit that May 12th deadline. So for all of you who are breathlessly waiting for that, that's your date. All right, one more before we get into the final topic. At the Q1 conference call, newly re-established, refounded, re-employed CEO of Disney, Bob Iger, put out there that they are making sequels to Frozen, to Toy Story, and to Zootopia, which is what you're seeing here. Wonderful cosplayers taken, I think, at Pop Cult Anime Con back in 2017. So obviously it's going to be like, I'm not sure what the titles are, but Frozen 3, Zootopia 2, and Toy Story 5 at this point. And as somebody pointed out in our, or asked the question in our group about this show, why though? Well, as this article in Deadline points out, Frozen 2 made $1.45 billion. Toy Story 4 made $1.07 billion. And Zootopia made $1.02 billion. In the year they were released. Who knows how much they made after that in streaming and other whatever kind of revenue streams they have. And they also point out that recently, Strange World, which is their most recent effort, just completely tanked. $74 million worldwide in theaters. Encanto did $256 million worldwide. So that's not huge. That's not fantastic. But it's not the numbers that they're looking for. And of course, Lightyear. They had really pinned a lot on Lightyear as far as expectations go, and it really didn't make those expectations. So they know that the last 3 movies they made that made over $1 billion were animated movies that could use a sequel. So that's why they're doing it. Nothing in anything he said gives us any time about when this will happen. In fact, he said, we'll have more to share about these productions soon, but this is a great example of how we're leaning into our unrivaled brands and franchises. In other words, the new stuff, Strange World and Encanto, didn't do what we wanted, and the last time we leaned into the franchise but took it on a different tack, Lightyear, that didn't do what we wanted. So guess what? We're going back to the good old stuff. But these will all be animated. These will not be live adaptations of any of this. These will be animated series. Sorry, I just got distracted by something on Twitch. Let me go back here. Yeah, so no idea when we will see any of these even start work in production, because Iger didn't say it, but I guarantee they're going to get them out as fast as they can, because Disney had a pretty rough year. All right, moving on to the last topic, the one that's in the thumbnail, the one that we've all been waiting for. You know, if you're a DC fan, you've been waiting on this, whether you watch the Super Bowl ad or not, or whether you're just a football fan and happen to see the Super Bowl ad, or you just waited until the full trailer dropped on YouTube that same night. You know, it's out there. The Flash trailer, the full 3-minute Flash trailer, is out there for everybody to watch. Everybody's watched it. I watched it. And, you know, objectively, you have to say it looks really good. It looks really well done. It looks like they like all trailers do, they give away too much of the plot or the story. But if you know enough about what's going on, you kind of get a sense. They've taken elements of Flashpoint, but then they've taken some of those elements in a completely different direction, which is very interesting. Harry, did you enjoy the Super Bowl ad for The Flash? As I said, I did. I thought the ad, well, the trailer, and I thought the ad, which was about a 90-minute ad, so about half the length of the trailer. And there were slightly different things in the ad and the trailer. There were mostly the elements in one were in the other, but there were a few things that were in the trailer that didn't wind, or that were in the ad that didn't wind up in the trailer. Like the array of all of the Keaton bat suits. So I liked it. I thought it looked really good. Obviously, like anybody who's a fan of, the DC movie universe, or different universes, I guess I should say. Yeah, I got absolutely super thrilled when I saw Keaton as Batman. When I saw the new look of the sort of blue and gray Batman suit that Affleck's Batman wears at one point. I really like their take on Kara, on Supergirl. Yeah, it looks good. And Miller looks like he's doing an excellent job. It looks good enough that there's been an awful lot of people who are saying, man, I can't wait to see this, whatever's happening with Miller. And I understand that. I completely understand that. I can say Nerd Caliber will have a review because for no other reason than we get, free press screening, so we don't have to pay to support somebody who might still be problematic. And I say that, trying to hedge any overly critical statements. Gunn has said, and Safran has said, and other DC executives have said that Miller is currently in a treatment program and doing extremely well. Miller pled guilty to the lesser charge of trespass in the case of them breaking into their Vermont neighbor's house and stealing some booze, which is a good sign. But until I hear Ezra Miller say, this is what I was going through when I did this, and I want to apologize to these people, and these people, and, face whatever I need to face, I am assuming that everything that Gunn and other people at DC are saying about Miller's efforts at recovery, while they may be true to whatever extent, is marketing. And so I had already been, and this trailer doesn't change it a whole lot, leaning a little bit toward seeing The Flash as a commercial entity, whether I see it as a reviewer, because of the statements about Miller and his owning up to things in a legal sense, or they're owning up to things in a legal sense, and they've got a lot more to do that than just that one pretty minor thing in Vermont. But also Gunn saying, and I would consider this also marketing hyperbole, that this is the best superhero movie he's ever seen. Even if that's hyperbole, if Gunn is saying that, it's probably a pretty damn good superhero movie. But if Miller does not come forward with any further apologies and description of the kind of treatment and help that they are getting and where they are in that treatment and their own mental state, I don't know that I can support it. I don't know that if I'm the one reviewing it that I could recommend it because of that. I'm fingers crossed. I'm real, if for no other reason, for the people that were in Miller's circle and that were involved in all of their terrible actions. Fingers crossed that they are actually getting the help that Gunn and Safran and Zaslav and other people are saying they're getting. And maybe their therapist is saying, being on social media to talk about what's going on, in your therapy is not helpful right now. But honestly, if we don't hear anything from them before July, I'm iffy about whether or not this is something that we're going to be able to recommend, no matter how good it might be. So again, I'm really hopeful. I've fingers crossed that it is in fact, one, as good as Gunn says it is, and two, it is going to be something that we can recommend because Miller will come out and say what they've been going through and where they are in their recovery and deliver all the apologies that they need to deliver. So yeah, that's basically my take on it. Did I, squee a little at the, Keaton bat suit and the, yeah, I'm? Of course I did. Absolutely. I would, that's a thrill for me. But no. Did I also squee at some of the Flashpoint references that they've twisted around a little bit? And yeah, of course I did. But we'll have to see. Right now, it is, like I said, leaning a little bit towards, I'm a little hopeful, more than I was a couple of weeks ago. Or I guess I should say more than I was before Gunn came out and said, A, Miller's getting the help they need, and we won't be making any decision about their future until they feel they're ready to talk about it. And B, the movie looks, again, in Gunn's words, the best superhero movie he's ever seen. Big grain of salt. Big grain of salt. So, you're obviously, everybody out there, you're going to make up your own minds. I'm certainly not trying to convince you one way or another. I'm telling you where I'm at personally, and where Nerd Caliber will be at in how it treats this movie going forward. So that's it, folks. That's the show. Couple of things to plug about appearances. Greg will be our guy at Katsucon, Wonderlama Photography. If you are at Katsucon this coming weekend, please look him up, check him out. Have him get some pictures of your cosplay. They're going to go up on the website. It's going to be great. After that, we go into I think the third week in March, which is PAX East. We'll have some big announcements about PAX East, fingers crossed, coming up soon. But I's have not been dotted and T's have not been crossed, so I can't put that big announcement out right now. Stay tuned. I'll certainly talk about it next show if it happens, and we'll have stuff up before then anyway. And then, of course, I believe we got Anime Boston, Wicked Comic Con throughout April, and then, things are happening. So we will see you at one of those upcoming events. We'll see you at next week's show. In the meantime, please do stay safe. I keep harping on it, but wear that mask when you're out in a big crowd, particularly at a convention. Nobody wants the COVID. Don't get it. It ain't fun. Obviously, hopefully you're all up to date with your shots and your boosters and things like that. So that's it, folks. We will see you at an upcoming show, at an upcoming con. In the meantime, good